that matchup.
Burke looking for a shot here. Indiana State has it.
He's giving the guys a block shots inside. Think about his work ethic.
Great cut to the basket.
Dallas gets the game-high 21. Robinson in the paint. And break the steal.
The FAA report is out detailing what really happened the day the Michigan basketball team plane skidded off the runway.
Now with the big dilemma right now that everybody's healthy and how do we make our 12 o'clock game tomorrow?
So again, let's get this great story of the Wolverines rolls on in Washington, D.C.
That team in the picture, that's my Michigan Wolverines. And after years of stinking up the joint or at best being average post Fab 5 days, I bet you're wondering how we ended up here. This is a story of how the Michigan Wolverines basketball team got their Fab 5 swag back. Of course, we're all well aware of the Steve Fisher days, even if we weren't alive for them. I thankfully was, but I missed the best of the best years. I was born in 1987. He was the head coach from 1989 to 1998. In that span, he won the 1989 National Championship, and he went to the Final Four 3 times. That's in 1989, 1992, and 1993. He was the head man of the Fab Five. Seeker and finder of the swaggiest, greatest, most freshest group of basketball players one had ever found up to that point, with Chris Webber leading the way time in and time out. Our man Juwan Howard getting down after dubs, Jalen being Jalen before he knew Jacoby, and Jimmy King and Ray Jackson being huge contributors to the success of that squad. But they'll always be known in part for having the same fates of Trey Burke's and Mo Wagner's teams, that is, finishing runner-up. In their case, they did it twice. They lost to Duke 71-51 in the 1992 title game, and then to North Carolina 77-71 in the 1993 game. Of course, where Webber walked and then did something else, but I can't quite remember what it was. Then came the drama, and the Steve Fisher era ended up being much more short-lived than originally intended, especially for a guy who had made 3 national title appearances in just 5 seasons and came out victorious in one of those. As we know, Chris Webber had accepted financial aid from booster Ed Martin. His amateur status was compromised. Jalen would live the rest of his life trying to bring everyone back together emotionally again, and Michigan basketball would suffer for years to get its groove back. I mean, under head coach Brian Ellerbe, we did win the Big Ten Tournament Championship in 1998, but his overall record of 62-60 was the worst winning percentage at the University of Michigan since head coach William Perigo, I don't know his name, it was the 1950s. His successor, Tommy Amaker, had some real basketball pedigree, and he was expected to do everything that Ellerbe was unable to. However, that too was a debacle. Lasting just 6 seasons, Amaker's greatest accomplishment was winning the 2004 NIT Tournament Championship and going a total of 109-83. That's a far cry from where we once were under good old Stevie. So as one could imagine, when we were on the job hunt in 2007, close to when the football team was looking for its next guy after the Lloyd Carr era, we could ill afford to choose the wrong person. And the rest is history.
Hard work that we put in, and like I said, to put banners up there, man.
Extra pass.
The lead man out of West Virginia really struggled at first, going just 10-22 overall and 5-13 in the Big Ten for a 9th place finish. Despite having a lot of studs on the team, they really failed to mesh together as a group. And a lot of that had to do with what I consider the selfish play of Corpariel L'Adorable Harris. Or, sorry, Manny Harris. That's his go-by name, I guess. Despite being a 4-star recruit and the number 2 overall player in the state of Michigan, Harris really failed to develop and he really failed to get his team involved. Again, that's an opinion, but to me, a 3.7 assists per game average with his kind of minutes is pretty weak. His field goal percentage from 2007 to 2009 was 38.1, 41.5, and 42.1, averaging 16.1, 16.9, and 18.1 points per game, respectively. In Harris's last 2 seasons after the 10-22 start, Michigan would go 21-14 and 9-9 in the Big Ten in 2008, and 15-17 and 7-11 in the Big Ten in 2009. I, along with many other Wolverines fans, was really excited to see what this team could do post Manny Harris and company. And to our approval, we ended up being everything we thought we could be, and then some. In 2010, the Michigan Wolverines basketball team went 21-14, and they made it to the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. While this is not typically the goal of most teams, it was definitely a step in the right direction, especially when you consider that that team had started out 1-6 in the Big Ten and ended up going 9-9. It seemed like if they really wanted to get where they thought they could go, they had to be more competitive in the Big Ten. Otherwise, they'd have to get used to early tournament exits to the likes of teams like the Duke Blue Devils in that 1 versus 8 matchup. By the way, if you guys remember, Michigan dang near rallied to win that game off the efforts of 5 players scoring in double digits, but flippin' Nolan Smith, man, dude was the hot hand, and we fell 73-71. Still, something seemed different for the Maize and Blue from that point on. We made the big show, we were extremely competitive against the 1 seed in the region, and we had a budding new star in Tim Hardaway Jr., son of this guy. We had momentum we could build on, and John Beilein was eager to prove why we had hired him. This time around, the Wolverines were not playing games. Well, I mean, they were, technically, but they weren't joking when they got on the court. They'd go 24-10 overall, and they tied for first in the Big Ten. Yep, you heard that correctly. Michigan basketball was back on top, and at the time, neck and neck with the Michigan State Spartans and the Ohio State Buckeyes with a 13-5 record in conference play. We'd go on to beat Minnesota in the quarterfinals, but get trounced by the Scarlet and Gray in the semifinals, 77-55. We'd continue in that negative trajectory as we would lose to the Ohio Bobcats in the first round of the tournament, a 13-4 seed upset that many experts call. There was one amazing thing that came out of that 2011 season, however. Tim Hardaway Jr. got himself another year of experience, and newcomer Trey Burke had led the team in points, assists, steals, and blocks. Michigan had its all-around star, and an excellent 1-2 punch in Burke and Hardaway Jr. together. That following season, my favorite Michigan basketball team that I can remember happened.
A lot of pressure here on this first one. That goes too strong.